I wish that I could tell you that the load you carry will get lighter. It won't. As time passes, you'll find it will get heavier. The mountain that you need to climb will get higher. The ocean that you need to cross will get wider. Trust me when I tell you that you don't want to wait. Indecision is a decision.
Was the only person that didn't have a window. They literally put me in the room with all the computer servers. But starting from there, I knew I could wow people because I was willing to grind it out.
And Carl, our videographer, had his family over, and we live around, at that time we lived around the corner from each other. Now we live on the same block. Random, right? Christmas was over, we're just going to the house, just eating dinner. It just was a random night.
A decision to fail, a decision to waste your potential. Time won't wait for you. Time doesn't wait for anyone. The clock keeps ticking in life. There are no timeouts, no breaks, and no rest stops. Remember something else, that if plan A doesn't work, there are 25 other letters in the alphabet. This isn't 3 strikes and you're out. This isn't baseball, it's the real world. And that means there's no limit on how many times you're allowed to try.
And that is one of the most valuable things that anybody can do. All right, now that company, we grew to the point where in 2010, it was a technology company. It was named as the 42nd fastest growing technology company in North America. I had suffered a lot. I hadn't taken a day off in like 6.5 years, except for Christmas, in fairness. I wouldn't let my wife go on a vacation because I was so hell-bent to get rich. And then I realized, almost 8.5 years in, here we are. We've just been named the 42nd fastest growing technology company in North America. We're making money, we're winning awards. Beautiful conference room overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I turn to my partners and I say, I'm completely miserable, I quit.
The only time your dream dies is when you decide to quit. You need to be ready for what's to come. When the darkness sets in, when you feel like you can't take another step forward, believe in yourself. You will keep going, you will persevere. You will weather the storm. Trust in yourself, the kind of trust a bird has. You see, the bird doesn't put its trust in the branch. It puts its trust in its own wings. So when the branch breaks, it can still fly. Again, you can weather any storm. You can withstand anything the world throws at you.
Remember that the safest path brings the least reward. Stop being afraid of what could go wrong and start believing in what could go right. There may be a million reasons you're afraid to follow your dreams, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go after what your heart desires. Dare to face your fears, dare to take risks, dare to be better.
And I hand back your equity. I'm not going to cross the finish line. I don't think I should get anything for that. And they said what are now famous words for me: we could do this without you, but we don't want to. And in that moment, I realized what had been missing. I realized the reason I was living the cliche of money can't buy happiness. I was realizing why what Tony Robbins says about success without fulfillment being the worst kind of failure was because what I cared about was connection. I'd gotten into it and gotten to know these guys, and along the way had become so myopically focused on this promise I'd made to myself as a kid that I never stopped to ask, why do I want to get rich? What is it that I plan to do with the money? The money in and of itself, it's inert. It just sits there. I'm sure you guys have a bunch of it in your pocket right now and it doesn't do anything, but it has latent potential. But the question is, what are you going to do with that potential?
Don't let pride confuse your tears. You've got to let that out. Sometimes you've got to let it go. When I lost my mom years ago, that was the hardest thing that I had to deal with. And to this day, I still think about that woman that gave me life. And I have my moments when I'm happy about the good times, but I also have my moments when she left this world. But that's just one thing. That's just one circumstance. There are many circumstances I can talk about, but I continue to move on. Everybody gets knocked down no matter how tough you think you are, you're going to fall. And when you fall, sometimes you fall real hard.
And somehow we got to talking, and Carl's wife is from Barbados, and she didn't have citizenship. So unfortunately, she was in the States without citizenship, and so she had to stay in school in order to eventually get her citizenship. So she did her master's degree, and she was in her PhD, and it was weird. It was just like, yo, E.T., I don't know how it happened, But it was like, yo, E.T., my wife is going to get her degree before you get yours. Right? I'm an American citizen. Like, I'd already been in the program for a few years, and you know, and it was, I don't know, but have you ever heard, like, you know when it's your time?
Ground is a hard surface, and I'm gonna tell you something, it ain't gonna move because you're laying on it, so you need to rise up and you need to rise above it, and you need to start moving when you get knocked down. How long are you gonna stay down? When you lose your job, when you lose that loved one, regardless if it's your husband, your wife, your child, whatever it is, do you have the ability to go through the hurt and the pain of that loss regardless of what you're going through? The best time you know that you are strong is when you're at the weakest point of your life. When you are so far down at home, you're looking up and you don't see no light, but yet you know there's an end to this darkness. That's when you'll find out just how strong you really are. This is a process, and you have to hurt just a little bit so you can understand what it means to be strong.
Like, you know, it's that moment. It's like, enough is enough. I can't tell you. People have asked me before, Eric, when you get your PhD? I'm like, I'll get it done. E.T., how far are you in the process? Finish all my coursework. I just got to write the dissertation. But it was something about that night that was different. It was almost the end of the year. And I remember Carl, listen to me very closely, guys. I'm being real with you. I didn't even have a conversation with Carl. Like, we never even talked about it afterwards. I never said anything to him about it, but I felt this guilt. I felt like this embarrassment. Like, and for real, he wasn't like speaking directly to me. He was just saying, you know, hey, E, I think my wife's probably gonna finish her degree before you finish yours. And I'm talking about, like, it pierced. Like, it pierced. And I just remember, like, we were talking afterwards and I didn't hear anything. Like, for real, have you ever been in a conversation and it just shifts and somebody's talking to you and, like, you can't hear the words that are coming out of their mouth? I didn't hear anything he said. I just kept it like, E, when are you gonna get this done, E?
Misery, it will continue to do all that is necessary to succeed. Misery is on a mission to take everything away from you because your mind is very powerful. Bring in the goodness, moving with a purpose, conditioning your mind is what this is about. Today is that day. And when and if tomorrow comes for you, be even more powerful. Be stronger than you've ever been.
Don't give up on your hopes, don't give up on your dreams, don't give up on yourself. Just keep moving forward. If you think that you're going through something so bad right now, wait until tomorrow. If tomorrow comes for you, look at the person next to you. Look at people all over the world if you ever come in contact with certain individuals, and ask yourself if they're going through a lot more than what I'm going through, because honestly, there are always going to be people that are going through a lot more than you're going through right now. When you're down, find a way to get up. I've been there, I go through it like anybody else, but I have a job to do in this world, and so do you. Self-discipline comes from within. It's a desire, it's being able to understand that you've got to get the work in.
Rectify in yourself. Believe in yourself. Keep that faith in yourself. Don't let the outside interference stop your growth. Don't let those that doubted you and said that you did not have it hold you back. Don't let the losses keep you down. Because if you're down, how would you understand what it means to get up? What is good about being miserable? What is misery doing for you? What has misery done for you lately? Has it given you everything that you need? Has it made you a better person?
You got to be willing to go further and harder than you've ever gone in your life. You can't depend on all the mechanical things, the alarm clock, your cell phone, or sometimes even people, sometimes just you. You got to be willing to wake up and be about your business on a daily basis. Let's just say for example, you're the type of person that can't seem to get away from all of the cravings you can't do. This without this, you can't do this without that. You need your coffee, you can't stop. Eating chocolate, all of these things you keep saying that you can't do. Well, let me remind you, can never do anything for you in the first place. So discipline starts with you. You have to be willing to be hungry.
Excellence shows itself. Be excellent. Let excellence be your brand. Everybody talks about building a brand. I never even knew what that was. When people would say, you're a brand, I would say, no, I'm just Oprah. What I recognize now is that my choice to, in every way, in every example, in every experience, to do the right thing and the excellent thing is what has created the brand. And what I know is that when you are excellent, you become unforgettable. People remember you. You stand out. Regardless of what it is, you become an unforgettable woman. And that is what we all want. We want to be unforgettable and not forgettable. So doing the right thing, even when nobody knows you're doing the right thing, will always bring the right thing to you. I promise you that. Why? Because the third law of motion is always at work. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That is so true in all of our lives. You just have to do the right thing, and the right thing will follow you even when people don't support it. I remember many times on my show. There are many shows y'all never saw. And the reason you didn't see them is because I got the last vote.
You have the power to go out in the world and inspire people, even if you clean a toilet. Clean the toilet like Picasso painted. You have the power to do that. You have the power to use your work as a chance to birth creativity into your world and to uplift other people. You have the power to do your part to change the world. And that's really what this video is about. It's about success. It's about doing genius level work. It's about making your dreams come true, and I want to give you some simple ideas on it. Number one, the number one reason we don't achieve success and we resign ourselves to mediocrity and we get swallowed into failure and discouragement, and it becomes sometimes so deep that we can't see the possibilities that our lives could be. I mean, your life doesn't have to be your current life 30 days from now, but most people can't see that. And the number one reason is this word called grit. Researchers say the number one defining factor of whether we become successful or average is whether we have grit. Grit is the ability to stay true to your vision and not dilute it when you get laughed at. Grit is the ability to try an innovation, experience failure, and to say, I'm going to continue, and I'm actually going to learn and use that experience to get me closer on my path to the mountaintop. I mean, what the ordinary person sees as failure, the master simply sees as part of the process of refining your craft. So, number one, you've got to have grit. You've got to literally, when you get knocked down, force yourself to get back up, because then you start to develop a new brain. Yes, you develop a new neural pathway. Yes, you develop new muscle memory. And yes, you develop confidence. Remember that every time you get knocked down, it's an opportunity for you to develop more confidence, develop more experience, develop more inner power. Okay? Every time you do something that you didn't feel like doing, like getting back up after you failed, or staying true to yourself after you've been laughed at or told it can't be done, literally, you become more powerful.
You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. The first thing he says to himself is, man, get lost, because he gives himself away. The nature of love is self-abandonment, not clinging to oneself. Throwing yourself out, as in, for example, in basketball, you're always getting rid of the ball. You say to the other fellow, have a ball, see? And that keeps things moving. That's the nature of life. So in this idea, then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that. Only you're pretending you're not.
I do not live my life in the confines of what anybody says. I let my imagination go, and now imagination is a preview to life's coming attract. But what that really means is God showing you a preview of what he has for you. So now, if you have not, cause you ask not, do you understand if you up your ass, he has to up his gear? Just period. This is simple stuff that anybody can apply. You ain't even gotta have no degree to do this. You don't even have to have no money to do this. You can start this today and change your whole game, because you're gonna need grace and favor anyway. Now, I ain't no preacher, but people kill me when they ask me. I was talking to a group of white reporters the other day. They kept asking me, how did I make it? And I kept talking about grace and favor. And they kept asking me, who's your agent? I don't know, who? Y'all, why you skipping over what I'm trying to tell you? You need the dream, the faith, and then he put his grace and favor on top of it, you gone. But you gotta ask for something. If you up your ass, he got to up his gear, period. You have not cause you ask not. Quit asking God for little bitty stuff. Lord Jesus, help me make my rent. Don't he always? All y'all got somewhere to stay. How about this? Why you keep asking for rent? Why don't you ask for a mortgage? If he gonna give you the money for a place to stay, what difference do it make to God? But if you keep saying rent, ain't he fair? He keep giving you rent. If you ask for a mortgage, he'll give you a mortgage. But you have not cause you ask not. Lord Jesus, help me fix my car so I can make it to work. Why do you keep praying?
Talking about past and future and excessive emphasis on past and future in your life. Yes, of course you need to have, there's nothing wrong with having a certain intention of what you want to achieve. Take steps towards it. It's part of living here in this dimension. You can't just say, I'm never going to plan anything anymore. Just take life as it comes. Well, some people try to do that, but they're not that happy either after a while. So then your life will get very diffused. And so to have an intention, to make a plan, perfectly fine. What, either a short-term plan, like I'm going to meet you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. How would you ever meet anybody if we didn't have time? And future on a practical level, of course it's needed. The question is whether future takes over your mind. Being able to use it for practical purposes is of course great, but I call that clock time is fine, but psychological time is when the future takes over your mind and your entire thought patterns are geared only towards future, and you treat the present moment as either just a means to an end because it enables you to get to the next one. You're always reaching out, so to speak, internally to the next, yet never quite here, always looking for some fulfillment there. So you can never embrace the fullness of now, or you make the now into even an enemy. Some people are always unhappy. Perhaps we all know one or two people like that. 3. Who are, wherever they are, they're complaining. It's never quite right. Wherever they are or whoever they are with, after a little while, they're very uncomfortable again. There should be somewhere else. You know the bumper sticker that you see in some cars, in various versions of it, says, I'd rather be golfing. And then another one says, I'd rather be fishing. I'd rather be this, I'd rather be there. When I visited the spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, who lives in Hawaii, he has a bumper sticker on, Ram Dass was the person who in the 70s wrote the book Be Here Now. Anyway, he has a bumper sticker on his car that says, I'd rather be here now.
What it is to be successful. Success doesn't take vacation. Ask yourself this: how many champions have you seen in your lifetime? Or do you know any champions? Perhaps maybe you were a champion at one time in your life, but you took a vacation. See, the thing about champions is that there are very few of them, but there are many more people that do not understand the significance of what it means to apply significant hard work, and to be able to get the hard work in and being able to persevere in their lives.
A good way to talk about discipline is you have to discipline yourself to get out of bed in the morning. You have to discipline yourself to go to bed at night, and all throughout the day. It's one thing after another, disciplining your thoughts, disciplining your mouth, disciplining your attitude, your actions, getting your work done, and on and on and on.
Yes, discipline, it does start with waking up early. It really does. But that is just the beginning. And I always say that discipline is the root of all good qualities. But you have to absolutely apply it to things. outside of just waking up early. It's everything. It's working out every day, making yourself stronger and faster and more flexible and healthier.
And so to say I'm not a disciplined person is actually not true. You have the fruit of self-control. You may not be using it, but you have it. So stop saying, I just can't control myself in that area, because what's in your power to do is in your power not to do. If you can say yes to something, you can say no to it. The choice is yours. The more you discipline yourself, God's given us self-control. He doesn't control us. He hasn't given us the right to control other people. He wants us to control ourselves.
Discipline is eating the right foods to fuel your system. It's about disciplining your emotions so you can make good decisions. It's about having the discipline to control your ego so your ego doesn't get out of hand and control you. It's about treating people the way you would want to be treated. And doing the tasks that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you know will help you or help your team. It's about facing your fears. It takes discipline to face your fears so you can conquer them. And that's what discipline is. Discipline means taking the hard road, the uphill road, to do what's right for yourself and for other people. It's so often the easy path that calls to us to be weak for that moment, to break down for that moment, to give in to the desire and the short-term gratification. But the discipline will not allow that. The discipline calls for strength and fortitude and will. It won't accept weakness. It won't tolerate another breakdown. The discipline can seem like it's your worst enemy. But the reality is, discipline is your best friend. It will take care of you like nothing else can. And it'll put you on that path. The path to strength and health and intelligence and happiness. But most importantly, it'll put you on that path to freedom.
Disciplines work miracles. Disciplines work miracles. And here's the first piece that works miracles. Number one, do what you can. Do not let neglect grab you by the throat. Don't let neglect stall you on your path toward prosperity and health, being able to become powerful, influential, rich beyond wildest imagination. Don't neglect what you can do. If you can read, read. If you can change, change. If you can grow, grow. If you can take one step, take one step. Do not neglect to do whatever you can do at the moment. Of course, you can't run a multi-billion-dollar business today. Mark couldn't either 10 years ago. Mark couldn't either 5 years ago. But I'm telling you, today he can do it, because step by step, year by year, he took on what he could do. He didn't neglect it. He did the meetings he could do. He made the calls he could make. He read the books he could read. He took the classes he could take. And step by step, he got himself ready. I'm telling you, do not neglect to do whatever you can do, because it'll work miracles. Of personal development first, productivity second. Now, do what you can. Here's number 2, do the best you can. Hopefully you've picked that up, especially from the president's team. That's how they got here, with diamonds in their pins. They not only did what they could, they did the best they could. And they've done the best they could, they've been able to do, and I'm telling you, that's why Herbalife has got this incredible reputation. They've picked up Mark's challenge that said, let us grow, let us start with easy steps first, let's do what we can first. If it's a foggy night and you can only see 100 feet, how can you see another 100 feet? Answer, walk the first 100 feet. Walk as far as you can see, and then you can see some more. And walk as far as you can see, and then you can see some more. So what you've picked up here, just do it as far as you can see it. And I promise you, if you'll execute as far as you can see it, you'll be able to see more. Do that, then you can see more. And finally, get in tune of doing the best you can. And you'll have the activity that'll develop the disciplines that will set this sail so that you can say it doesn't matter how the wind blows. I'm prepared.
You know, a lot of people are very, very talented. It's amazing to me the talent that some people have. But it's also kind of a known fact, not with everybody, of course, but some people that are very talented are also very undisciplined. And I know one person, for example, she is talented in so many different things that she can't seem to settle on any one thing and really do anything with it, because she'll get halfway into that and then she gets another idea, and they're all good ideas. But sooner or later, you got to harness your power and focus it into one thing. Talent without discipline is like an octopus on roller skates. There's plenty of movement, but you never know if it's going to be forward, backward, or sideways.
It's not about me, it's about the information, it's about the realization of the reality that we're experiencing behind the smoke screens and the illusions that we're given and told to believe in. So, you know, in the old Yellow Brick Road, Wizard of Oz, they seem to be dealing with an all-powerful force. And when they looked behind the curtain, it was an old bloke who had no power at all. And this cult expresses its power by persuading the target population that it has power. Its power is in our acquiescence to that illusion of power. We now have the chance to break the spell, to break the mind spell and see behind the curtain. And what we'll find is something that's not powerful at all once we stop acquiescing to it. And it's where I want things to go, but it's also where I know things can go. Because in the last few weeks, worldwide, that spell has been broken. And at the same time, this cult has broken cover. It's walked into the room where we can see it. And you know what's happened? The frickin' door has clicked behind it. And we're now in a different game. And I tell you this, I have tracked these people, this cult, for 30 years full time. And I've seen what they do, and I've seen how they act, and I've seen their staggering, shocking levels of psychopathy. And you know what? I don't fear them one smear, because I am more powerful than they are, and they frickin' know it. I ain't come here to fail, and I frickin' won't.
There's always people out there who are doing far better than you on pretty much anything you want to imagine. And if all you're doing is seeing yourself in their reflected light, let's say, then it's going to be pretty damn dismal. But it's not a good comparison because, well, first of all, there's danger in just comparing yourself to others, period, because they're not you. And God only knows what struggles they had to undertake to get to where they were, or what burdens they're currently carrying that you're not aware of. But you can certainly contrast yourself with yourself. And that's a lot better. It is the only way. Well, it's also the only way of really measuring anything approximating proper improvement. You can actually tell when you're a little better than you were yesterday.
Right.
And you can actually do that. That's another thing that's so interesting about it, is that you can actually make yourself a little better in some way, pretty much, well, I don't know if it's at every moment, but you can certainly do it every day. Be careful who you share good news with, because you want to share good news with people who are going to be genuinely happy for you, and be careful who you share bad news with, because that's equally tricky. You want someone who will listen to you when you're having trouble and allow you your grief. Beauty calls people to their higher being, I would say, and to make friends with beauty is to introduce yourself very carefully to one of the mysteries of life that make it worth living. There's never been a better time for the majority of people to be alive. And the future, although we're vulnerable and terrible things can always happen to us, it's hard to make a case that the future doesn't look comparatively positive. We're becoming extremely technologically sophisticated, and the world is changing at an incredibly rapid rate, and the only way we're going to be able to manage that in a positive way is if each of us, or as many of us as possible, are capable of making wise and careful and truthful decisions. And if we do that, then maybe things can continue to improve. You don't get people to stand up on their own 2 feet and to adopt responsibility if everything is given to them. And that's a real conundrum. You know, maybe you're in California, see someone speeding down the road in a convertible Porsche, and you think, oh man, what a lucky bastard. And the truth of the matter is that he's thinking about wrapping his expensive sports car around the next cement pillar that he comes close to. You know, you can't tell, and people have hard lives, and even people who are comparatively fortunate have hard lives. And the ideal that you're observing that makes you jealous and resentful is in large part an illusion that's created by your own mind.
As you leave the herd and the crowd and perhaps the cult of mediocrity and rise to being a game changer, it's a very disruptive act. And you actually threaten the masses of people around you. And that's why every visionary was first ridiculed before they were revered. And I'm sure you've experienced it. You say, you know, I want to take my fitness to a whole new level of world class, or I want to take my craft to a whole new level of world class, or maybe you're raising your game financially and then you share it with those you love or your friends, and maybe your friends are those you love and they laugh at you. And how many times have we given up on a dream because we were mocked by the people around you? And all I'm suggesting to you is when you get laughed at and ridiculed, and when people don't understand your next level of world class, that just means you've got a great dream, and that just means you're on the path of growth. So be a game changer. What are some tactics? Well, I'm going to walk you through a bunch of key tactics, or the rules of game changers. And the first one is really this: no idea works unless you have the courage to do the work. Ideation without execution is delusion.
And so there are people who say, well, I went to a course, or I joined an online membership program, or I read a book, but my life didn't change. And I want to say to them with great respect, your life could have changed, but you didn't do the work required to make the change happen. That's almost like an athlete saying, I want to be a gold medalist at the next Olympics, but I went to the gym for 4 days and I didn't get the medal. I mean, the reality is an idea is the starting point on the process to get you to where you want to get to. So just remember that really building something great is all about execution. When you look at a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk, or when you look at a Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa, when you look at a Da Vinci or a Tesla, all those people had the vision and then they outworked everyone around them to execute on the vision until the product was done. And it's not only execution, it's the grit. Remember grit from previous mastery sessions, which is you get knocked down, do you give up or do you continue? And any game changer has literally out-persisted everyone around them. And when you get full of self-doubt, which you will do on the path to world class, do you continue? So the first idea is just remember, no idea is going to work unless you have the courage to do the work. It's all about high levels of execution intelligence. Great leaders and game changers have a bias towards getting things done. And it's like a muscle. The more you do, the more you're going to want to do. You start building this incredible momentum. The momentum fuels internal confidence. The confidence wants you to make even more gains, and it becomes this upward spiral of unbelievable execution.
And a weird thing happened as I started doing that. I was actually learning a lot more. And so I was able to convey that to the students, and I was able to help the students make their films better. And it made me realize, whoa, there's this weird reciprocal loop.
I'm a college dropout. I was homeless, lived in a car for 3 years. I've lost every single thing I had, family included. I've been written off so many times. But today, the person that you sitting in front of you is a process.
Then next is how you feel about the future. We've got to have the future well designed. The future is called the promise. The promise of the future can be an awesome force.
The harder I work over here, then go and explain it, they actually can take that knowledge and put it to use. Building skill sets, getting better at something. And I started thinking, is that something that I could do for myself? And at that moment, these two very successful entrepreneurs walk into my class. And at that time, I was obsessed with two things. I wanted to get rich, and I wanted six-pack abs. Now, I grew up in a morbidly obese family, so for me, that was real, man. And I used to be 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And I wanted those six-pack abs, man. I just had no idea how I was gonna get it. And I remember the first time that somebody told me, I think you already have abs, it's just under the fat.
I want to talk to you for a moment about the process. Because see, one way to get a person to really follow you is to be the example of what you're trying to get them to follow. You know, my daddy used to tell me all the time, he said, son, best thing you can do for poor people is not be one of them, because you can't help the cause. Your brain is divided into two halves, positive and negative, good and evil. Each half of your brain has millions of factory workers on each side. You got 1 million factory workers on the positive side. You got 1 million factory workers on the negative side.
And I thought, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Because I had done like a bunch of crunches and I'm like, I still don't see them. So I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it was all the licorice. I had a thing. So these two guys walk in, very accomplished entrepreneurs, ripped, six-pack ab, bodybuilder types, and they said, hey, you're coming to the world with your hand out. If you want to control your art, you have to control your resources. So if you want to get back in the saddle and actually become a filmmaker, you're going to have to learn to control the resources. So come with us, be a copywriter, but understand this is a startup. You can have any role in the company that you want. You just have to become the right person for that job. And so I took them at their word and I pivoted and I left my teaching career, which had safety. And I looked to my wife and I said, this may fail, but I've got to at least give it a shot. And my wife said the words that have become famous for me, which is, I bet on you.
At the forefront of each one of those factories in your brain is a foreman. You got foreman positive and you got foreman negative. You are in charge. You're the boss of the factory. So let me show you how this works. You got a remote control. You go to your house tonight and you press that power button and you press it. When you point it at the TV, what do you expect to happen? You expect TV to come on. You press the power button, you expect the TV to come on. If you want to watch HBO, and HBO is channel 300, and you press 300, and then you press select, what do you expect to come on that TV? And what comes on that TV? So now, since your brain is in two halves, let me show you how this works. You wake up in the morning and you say, man, I don't feel myself today. I got up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm not a morning person.
Now, what my wife was betting on wasn't that I already knew how to do what they wanted me to do, because she knew I didn't. What she was betting on in me is the same thing that each and every one of you have, which is the ability to learn. And so I went into it knowing I was not the right person for any job in that company. I'd never been in a company like that before. I'd been totally focused on film. This was software. It was security software. It was nothing that I had any interest in, but I wanted to get rich. And so I did it. And for 6.5 years, I put my head down, like those early days in my dorm room, and I worked my ass off around the clock. I didn't take vacations, meaning if I went somewhere, I would literally, guys, this is real, I would take a camera so that I could watch what was going on back at the facility.
Designing the future. There's two ways to face the future. One is with apprehension, and the other is with anticipation. I promise you, in my travels around the world, most people face the future with apprehension. And here's why. They don't have it well designed. They've sort of left that up to someone else to fix. But here's the best way to face the future, with anticipation. You can face the future with anticipation if the future is clear, if the future is well designed. In setting goals, it's very simple. Number one, decide what you want. You just take a little time. You sit down and say, what do I want? What kind of skills do I want? What kind of income do I want for the future? Where would I like to go? Places I'd like to visit. Habits I'd like to acquire, skills I'd like to have.
Right? So everything. I don't care. Equalizer 1, 2. If he come out with 6, I'm going to see that joint. And Equalizer 1 and 2 is the same movie. It ain't nothing different about it. But Denzel in that Joker. And I'm like, Denzel, let's go. So I fell in love with Denzel, I guess, maybe back in the day, like with Malcolm X, Glory, right? So I go see anything Denzel. So Denzel said he had a coach. And I looked at my life and I was like, yo, I don't got a coach. I need to get a coach. Denzel is paying somebody to help him act, and that's probably why he the best. Because somebody else probably is an actor, and guess what happened? The more opportunities they got, the more cocky they got, because they were getting roles and they probably fell off. So we could probably name some actors that were sweet 10 years ago that you don't see today. Denzel's still out there, he's still the man, right? So I was like, I'm giving me a coach. So Anthony Flynn was in my circle already, and he was like, he's the CEO.
Economics, friendships, people you'd like to meet. When you've thought about what you want for the future, make a list. If the future gets clear, the price gets easier. Because you got to remember, for every promise, there's a price to pay. Everybody's got to pay the price. Everybody's got to do the deal. Everybody's got to do the disciplines. But here's what I've discovered. If the promise is clear and powerful, the price is easy to pay. The price is some classes. The price is a few books. The price is a few disciplines. The price is finding something that'll make your life better, make you grow, make you change, make you develop. So the first part of the key is to design the promise. Then, what is the price to pay? I'm telling you, the price will be easy. No matter where you are, where you come from. Color doesn't matter, religion doesn't matter, where you grew up doesn't matter, circumstances don't matter. I'm telling you, if you'll make the promise of the future clear for yourself.
Coach, you know, he the CEO coach's coach. I'm like, all right, then, if you coach the CEO, I'm a CEO. I need to get coached. And I remember we went in this room in the Westin Hotel. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember he broke some stuff down to me, and I had the best 2019 I ever had. Imagine you getting coached and you super talented. I was just living off talent. I had no focus or direction. I was just like, turn the light on, go. You know what I'm saying? I saved so much time and so much energy that in 2020, I'm able to lead a corporate arena and I'm just doing schools. You feel what I'm saying? Like the coaching was so sweet that the area I dominated in, I'm coming out of the arena. And I'm focusing on schools, because what did I learn when I was here's the crazy thing. He was like, all right, E, you all over the place. You got a million ideas, but we're gonna do 3 buckets, right? And I knew the 3 buckets was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna work with you because you're talented, so I'm gonna give you 3 buckets, but that's a lot.